Where is my watch? And where's Chris? Like, hello, Chris, you here?
Okay, let's get started.
Wait, you're not Chris.
You're not that foreign prince I was going to sell diamonds for.
Are you sure about that?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Shall we talk about a film?
Yeah, I mean, we should probably just do that anyway, right? That's what we're here for.
Well, we're here.
Yes, might as well. What do you want to talk about then?
Scott Pilgrim.
Scott Pilgrim versus the world?
Scott Pilgrim against the whole of the world.
The whole of the world and not just 7 individuals, because that's the entirety of the universe.
Nope.
Yep.
It's the whole world.
To be fair, yeah, that title does actually make sense the more you watch this film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's just anyone that comes up against him is he's
just-
just I'm gonna beat you up too, and
Yeah,
you stay out
just
my
like-
way.
It's like it's the equivalent of putting your fingers in your ear and going la 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 la. I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Like, nothing can break into my little world. Yes.
This is an important film, man.
Mm-hmm. Very.
This is a big one.
Yeah, I mean, are you a fan in particular of like Edgar Wright before this film, or were you this your first introduction?
So I'd seen Shaun of the Dead, and like that was it. I think I'd seen most of Hot Fuzz. I
Yeah.
hadn't seen all of it, like in a full run through.
Yeah, so I think Shaun of the Dead is like the entry point for most people when it comes to Edgar Wright content. Yeah,
Yeah,
unless they were old school and watched Spaced on Channel
Spaced,
4.
yeah. The old BBC. Oh no, BBC fucking Channel 4. Yeah. The old comedy with Nick Frost, Simon Pegg.
Yeah.
It just seems to have. I love how most directors just have their tight knit group.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about this film. Like, I don't know if you heard this, but like Edgar Wright like specifically said, I want to break into the American film industry. Like
He wanted no one
Yeah.
from outside North America.
like nobody at all. He wanted to make sure that like this wasn't just like the Edgar Wright train that he's been running
Yeah.
on for so long. He was like, no, we have to make an American film, and it's going to be fucking fully American.
And do you know how many non-North Americans there were in the film?
Yes, there are a few.
There's one.
Oh, it's Patel, isn't it?
Yep.
What's his?
He was
actual-
from London. Satya Baba was
Yeah.
from London.
There was like I remember seeing something years ago where he like pretended to be American so he could get on the audition because he really wanted to be in an Edgar Wright film.
Yep. Brilliant. Great stuff.
What an absolute hero. Love it.
I know.
But yeah,
But no, you're big on your Edgar Wright stuff.
Yeah.
I
Like,
believe.
I've been a fan since Spaced. Like, yeah, like just his idea of comedy is so fucking out there. It's so hyperkinetic that you never even get a chance to like think about what's happening before you're laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You notice a lot of Shaun of the Dead does a lot of very subtle stuff as well, and a lot of like everything's very, as you say, very kinetic, moving a lot, and then it'll just stop.
Yeah.
Give you something, and then it's like right, you're off again,
Yep. I think
and you've not even had time.
that usually like these kind of films are like his films are like they have those scenes of it being like hyperkinetic and kind of fast, like just to kind of show the punctuation of action. But this one, it's like the main character seems to be ADHD or something like that, and everything's from
Yeah.
his perspective. So you're like cut, 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 cut. So
Yeah.
it's quite,
And that's
quite hard to
one
follow.
of the great things about Scott Pilgrim is they discussed it as he's the star of the movie that's in his own head.
Yeah, that's the kind of way I perceived it. I mean, we should probably give like a little kind of brief rundown of what Scott Pilgrim versus the World really kind of is. For people who
Yeah.
haven't seen it, it's essentially a comic book film done in a very comic book style. It's about a guy called Scott who is not the greatest of protagonists in the entire universe, but like he's essentially just going through his dating life until he meets this one girl called Ramona Flowers that seems to change his entire perspective on life. But
The literal girl of his dreams.
yes, the girl of his dreams, and then he realizes soon after that he has to kind of deal with her past coming back to haunt him, and in the form of her 7 evil exes, who will
Yes.
now challenge him to fights at any point during his day-to-day life.
Yeah, he's always got to be on the lookout.
Yep, and that's pretty much like the the ground level of what Scott Pilgrim versus the World is about, but it's a lot deeper than that,
Oh,
definitely.
definitely. One of the interesting things about this being an adaptation
Mm.
is, though most adaptations will look at the likes of your comic book films, um, they have they either have the whole of their starting point to work with, for the likes of, let's say, V for Vendetta,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that had a single book which was finished, and then they made the film later on. Um, the likes of your Batman, your Superman, your Spider-Mans, they're ongoing, but there's so much to work with
Yeah, you
that
have
you can
lots
make
of content. Yeah, yeah.
mountains of film. This was 2 books in.
Yes, it not even like and not even got to most of the story yet. Because a lot of
No.
the weird thing about the comic book is it deals a lot with kind of flashbacks in the past, whereas this film
Mhm.
kind of skims over most of that content.
Yeah, there's so much extra stuff in the graphic novels, like Scott, getting a job.
Hmm.
He eventually moves in with Ramona. There's so many other like little tiny things,
Yeah,
but O'Malley, the creator of Scott Pilgrim, Brian Lee O'Malley, had notes for the rest of the series and how he wanted it to go, and he is described in the audio commentary as being like an anti-Alan Moore. That he is so easily accessible
yeah,
that Edgar Wright was getting in contact regularly and being like, right, what do you think about this? Have you got anything about this, that, the next thing?
yeah. It's kind of like the almost it's like how Game of Thrones should have been done, if you get what I mean.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
where by like the adaptation can go in a separate way, but you still have like that key point holding everything together.
yeah.
I like the fact that he kind of cameos himself really in the film. He does lots of drawings. Like all the
Mhm.
illustrations you see in this film are all done by him as well. It's really cool. Like you get to see the
Yeah,
comic book counterparts.
I know. It's great stuff like that, and he himself is in the film at
Mm,
one very brief moment.
yes.
But a lot of people make cameos as well. Um,
So
so
yeah, I mean like
shall we?
yeah, let's dive into the kind of like the overall thing of it. I mean, one thing I kind of want to say first that like is obviously as far as adaptations go, like you were saying, this film does comic book and it does comic book right. You know,
Yeah.
like kind of I would say the precursor to Enter the Spider-Verse, you know, where
Mhm.
everything is actually done in that sort of like panel to panel sort of like way with lots of kind of like what do you call them, visual sound effects on the screen.
Yeah, yeah, and they made that such an important thing. Again, it goes back to the whole Scott Pilgrim being the movie star in his own head.
Yes.
He would see these words in front of him. He would see the black bars in front of someone's
Yeah.
mouth when they're swearing. This is all stuff we're put into his shoes to
Yeah,
experience,
like that
which
happens like
makes for
right away at the start of the film. It's like the movie just hits out with it. It's like pure here's the panels, here's the fucking note
yep.
boxes of what the people are
It's
about and stuff. It doesn't hide it in the slightest. It's like
straight away. It's once upon a time in a land called Canada.
yeah. It's like
Straight away, even narrated by
yeah.
Bill Hader, no less.
Yeah, and also you get like the way the shots are done, they're very much like comic panels and like they don't move the camera ever, I don't think really. It's mostly kind of
Right.
just like it switches between shot to shot to shot to show everything it needs to do.
Yeah.
It's
And obviously, like at first, you've got how it sort of goes down to illustrate sort of like a long panel, if you will.
yeah, yeah. That kind of
Um,
thing. It's almost like a motion comic, you know, like
yeah,
the ones you got.
yeah,
I don't know when they
absolutely.
still make those, but they were cool.
Don't know. Yeah,
Yeah, but that's to say, like, so it kicks off with that kind of like energy, and so you know straight from the get go that this is never. It starts out fast and it never kind of like slows down. Really,
yeah,
it's all just ramping up to the action that's going to follow. So you get introduced to Scott, who, um, as we say, it shows his own ideas of what he thinks of people, kind of. And it says
mhm.
like, what's it say, like #1 awesome guy or something like that.
Oh, rating awesome.
Rating
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah,
everyone's got a rating system at first.
yeah,
So the likes, I think I can't remember. Someone's rated T for teen. That was his sister, Stacey.
yeah, yeah.
Which is brilliant. That's another sort of great snippet from the graphic novels.
Yes, like
Um,
I love the way that it does that. Kind of like just like integrates all the stuff from the comic. It can like
yeah,
just to kind of like keep the same feel of the universe and not just like I don't know, trample all over it.
yeah. And it just, I don't know, man. The one thing that they've done incredibly well is casting.
Oh, right.
Because if you read the graphic novels and then go into, you see the characters that are introduced at first. The first one to me was Stephen Stills, man, identical.
It is kind of uncanny. Same with I mean, obviously, like the character of Kim looks very similar to what it does in the comic book. Like somehow they managed to get the proportions correct.
Yeah, yeah,
It's very odd, but like the casting is so well done for this. Like we said before, like obviously they were going exclusively for American actors, and for like
yeah.
that to be his first major American film, he managed to get like a pretty good well of talent there.
Oh yes, very much so.
I don't really know at this point. Would you say that like Michael Cera was still kind of undiscovered, or was that further
I
into
think
his career?
I think this was a couple years in because he had already done Superbad and Juno.
Hmm. And obviously
So
had like his
he's
big break with Arrested Development and so forth at that point.
yeah. So he wasn't undiscovered, but he was I don't know if he was still in his typecast. He was
Yeah,
trying to get a little bit out of his typecast of being awkward teenager because he was now awkward young adult.
yes, awkward young adult, which kind of leans into like the main plot point of this at the start is that like he is now like young adult and he is still dating a teenager.
Yep. He refuses to grow up. He is a child for the
Yes.
rest of his like.
And I think that's a wonderful way to introduce a character. Is the first thing we learn about him is he's dating a Chinese high school girl who goes to a Catholic school, and every one of his friends is just groaning at him because they know that he's just like doing some sort of like fetish thing and like just being horrible to this girl, and they're all just like, "Oh, for fuck's sake, Scott! Like, what are you like?"
You can feel that like everyone who he knows and he's surrounded by just wants to say to him, "Grow up."
Yeah,
At some point.
I think was it Kim says like if your life had a face, I would punch it.
Yeah.
It's such a great bit of dialogue. Yeah.
Yeah. Alison Pill, man, she's great in this film.
Ah, she's fantastic because like
Uh,
her main job is to either like tell Scott he's an asshole or to just scream at the top of her lungs every time they go into a song.
Yeah. And she doesn't there are 3 instances in this film where she is not breaking eye contact, or she is breaking eye contact, if you will.
Yeah.
There's a couple where she lowers her eyes, and then there's one where she has her eyes closed, but the whole time she has wide eyes and is staring something down.
Yeah, it's like this kind of venom stare, like an animal that's about to attack sort of thing.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's brilliant. But I love that we kind of like because that we get the establishment that like her and Scott used to date, and we know that there's been like maybe a couple other like exes in between, and all of them have gone horribly wrong, sort of thing. And like Scott's kind of left this pile of I don't know, unhappy women in his wake, but he never seems to really care about it. Like he just kind of like, yeah, because Kim obviously being quite, I don't know, someone he was really involved with and is still in his life.
Mm-hmm.
She just sits there and has to listen to his bullshit as he goes through like his girl problems, because he's dating this like teenager, and then he all of a sudden just like decides to throw her to the side when he has a dream about a girl with bright colored hair and dresses a bit punky, and he's like, oh my god, I need to have her instead.
And Kim's just like, I don't care.
Like, oh, for fuck's sake, Scott, please stop.
And that's where it sort of harkens back to versus the world. Like Scott, it's not just about these 7 evil exes, it's about literally everyone, him dealing with everyone and their opinions of him, and everyone getting in his way and stuff like that.
Him not dealing with them, I think, is more appropriate.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Like he literally ignores everyone around him for the sake of himself, and it's his own selfishness that we get to see established as his main character trait.
Pretty much, yeah. As he's selfish and he's careless, and he just, he's not a good guy at first.
Yeah, I love because the movie obviously follows his sort of pacing in this early part where we kind of just keep like skipping between scenes and over like just cutting out content almost, it seems like, because he doesn't care. Like other people start talking, he's like, nope, next scene, and it's like
it's like he was just on autopilot and just sort of not paying attention for all that happened.
Because there's a great like I think it's when they're going to the club for the first time sort of thing, and it's like it just seems to kind of follow them walking, but they seem to be in totally different locations each time they start a line of dialogue. It's almost as if
Yeah.
like he's just like blanking out the whole experience until they get there, and then
Yeah, it's like they're in the living room and it's like, oh, where are we going? And then all of a sudden they're on the way to uh, the rocket or something like that. I
as
can't
the
remember
rocket,
where.
yeah, like because he doesn't even finish his line of dialogue. I think it is. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to be playing at the, and then it just cuts to the sign.
Yeah.
It's so good. But we also get to see like inside of his mind when he like gets into these social situations that he wants to escape from. Like his one line of dialogue is, "I have to go" or "I have to pee." Like that's
Yeah. I can't remember. There was a list of like all the different things, and it was like who, her, no speaker English. Like
yeah.
there's a whole list of what's on the spin wheel, and it's so good.
Because when
And
he gets in the middle of the two of them and he's like, "I have to pee on her."
Yeah, I gotta pee on her.
Everyone's just like, "What?" And then just runs out the stage. It's fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I love how it's everything's very tight knit in terms of the cast. There's such a large cast, but there's such a small cast at the same time. Because it's mainly just this small group of people who we're dealing with. But then just it draws in from other sources, and obviously like you've got the tree that branches out to the X's.
Yep.
And then you've got all the extras who we don't need to worry about. But
yeah. But as I say, because it focuses so heavily on Scott, all these extra characters can only get like one-liners in, because he feels that they're not as important. It's only really like him, Ramona, and Knives that really get like to be developed, really, because they're the only people that are involved with him.
Yeah.
So when he starts like kind of trying to court Ramona Flowers, it's kind of funny how we see like his idea of confronting his past and all the stuff that he's done just kind of drops to the side because he's now preoccupied with her past. It's kind of like this selfishness kicks in, and it becomes like a real thing where he has to actually fight with her past as the boyfriends start appearing. And during their first gig, we get to see Matthew Patel, and this is where things like just kind of like explode. They already were quite comic booky, but now it becomes like video game.
Yeah, now it's a lot more in your face and noticeable. It's like he comes flying in, and there's the effects around him, and you've got the whole like throws a guitar, and then he takes up the stance, and it's a fight.
Yeah, the actual like overlays of saying fight. It's just, I actually think it even has like Tekken sound effects. I think that's what it's from. Like
I think there's Virtua Fighter is used at one point,
right,
but the other one is Street Fighter Alpha 3, I believe.
Yes, there is one from that. Yeah, Street Fighter Alpha 3, 100%. What do you call it? Narrator? No, voiceover in Street Fighter.
No, the narrator.
Yeah, is so good in that. Like, he has the best voice lines in Alpha 3. Like, good choice.
But yeah, it becomes very much a video game in a graphic novel in a action comedy teen film. It's everything. It's all at once.
Somehow, and it doesn't become a jumbled piece of shit. Like, how do you juggle so many different types of like storytelling techniques and have it come off being awesome?
I know. And then when the fight starts, it's beautiful. It's choreographed so well.
Yeah, I was actually at first you start to notice in the fight scenes that a lot of them are done from top down.
Yeah.
Like obviously so they can get in like stunt doubles and fighters and stuff and not have to worry about Michael Cera's face being on screen, but they do blend in really well, I think. Like the CGI and like the camera work, it's seamless almost.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the camera work's brilliant in this film, and as you say, I do looking back now realize so many more of the overhead shots.
Mm-hmm.
I think Scott Pilgrim. I think Michael Cera was in a lot of his own shots, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of them had to be subbed in, obviously.
You can tell when it gets to like the scenes where he's doing like flip kicks and backspins and stuff like that. You're like, yeah, that's definitely a double with a terrible wig on, but that doesn't matter because like Michael Cera's hair looks like a terrible wig 90% of this film.
Yep.
That's probably actually a good idea on the casting choice, because I think Mary Elizabeth Winstead, playing Ramona Flowers, is wearing wigs the entire time as well, so it works well for stunts.
Yeah. Well, in terms of stunts, she had a rough go of it.
Definitely.
Because she apparently like the whole time, she had like she got tendonitis in her shoulder at one point. Yeah, because she went to the doctor and they're like, do you play tennis or anything? She's like, no, and it's like, oh, because you have no, sorry, it wasn't tennis, it was baseball, something like that.
Oh, right,
And they're
because
like,
of the
you
swinging.
you have a baseball like injury, tendonitis in your shoulder, and she's like, oh no. But she went to the doctor another point because she spent 90% of the filming of this movie in extreme pain. Turns out she had holes in her spine.
What?
She had like tiny holes going up her spine, and it was fucking horrendous. And she was just like, maybe I'm going crazy. But then her sister checked it out, and then like she went for an X-ray or something, and yeah, her spine was fucked.
From this movie, or was it like a pre-existing condition that this movie just harassed by throwing her down some stairs or whatever?
Yeah, I think it was the latter. And then she ended up like getting it fixed. And then like for the last few bits of the movie, she was like, yeah, everything's totally fine. But she'd spent so much of that movie in agony.
Oh, wow. What an absolute trooper to fucking pull through for the rest of the project.
Commitment, man, yeah.
Yeah, holy crap.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, she only has like one major fight scene in this, really, doesn't she? Oh, two actually. Sorry, yeah, there's two major fight scenes involving Ramona.
But there's one that involves like a bit of wire work for her.
Yeah,
and that was one of the ones where she was just like, yeah, this is sore.
Yeah, that's another thing. The wire work in this is actually really well done. Like about 3 or 4 characters all have like flight abilities at some point.
Yep.
But it all just looks like totally badass. It's very like anime inspired. The way that people kind of like float around with like that kind of stiffness to them as they kind of float towards.
And a lot of the time it is the actors doing that wire work. Because I know Mary did the backflip. Micheal, Sarah, and Mark Webber in the fight against the Katayanagi twins.
Yeah.
When they get like blown away, they actually do the flip. They're actually on the wires there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And it was hella sore, apparently.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Where were we?
So yeah, we were talking about like the first fight is over, like pretty much like as we see like Matthew Patel gets like his butt handed to him, and this is where we establish the whole plot line of you will have to defeat all my evil exes because there's like a league of them or something they call them, the League of Evil Exes. They've bounded together to make sure that whoever Ramona Flowers is dating has to be incredibly worthy, or they just kind of want to get rid of all potential suitors for her.
I know. So this was inspired by Brian Lee O'Malley's kind of actual life.
Yeah.
Or he came up with the idea. His wife, before they were married, he found out that she dated 3 guys named Matthew. Yep. So he was like, what would happen if I had to fight a league of evil Matthews? And that's where the story comes from. And that's why the first one's called Matthew.
Yeah, oh, that's great. I didn't actually realize that's the reason behind his name. But yeah, it's really cool because like the idea of fighting the evil exes, it works as like this great metaphor for like kind of just jumping into relationships at that age, where people are so hung up on the ideas of like, oh, well, who did you date before? Were they better than me? Like, what do I know about them? It's this kind of like obsession that kind of plagues like young dating life, when it's really just it's always just kind of this facade to kind of hide the fact that you're just insecure. Like,
yeah. And I love the sort of every time Ramona needs to give him the cliff notes on each ex.
Yeah.
And I think, I can't remember, the only one there's 2 that don't get like, the comic book subtitle scene to them, and it's Roxy and the twins. They don't get their sort of comic book style. Yeah, they're here's their story.
Yeah, I mean, like, Roxy gets more story than like the twins do. That's for sure. Because the twins, obviously, that in the comic book they get more of a backstory, but I think it's just the way the movie's paced. It's quite well done. Like, because the first boyfriend and the second boyfriend, like, their fights are like quite epic and they get quite a big introduction. Obviously, the second boyfriend is played by Chris Evans, a fantastic
the radio DJ.
Yes, Channel 4
God.
Big Breakfast presenter Chris Evans.
Wow.
No, like Captain America himself.
The Human Torch.
Human Torch, yes. Big comic book star Chris Evans plays second boyfriend, and obviously, so he gets a lot more screen time.
Yes,
because he's a big name. But their fight is also quite epic because it just throws like everything out the window when he gets like spun round and thrown into a building site.
Yeah, that is where it becomes like he's the sort of the super buff, strong. He's the Bane.
Yes.
To this one, he's the muscle.
Yeah, I like that he's got his own stunt doubles, like as a actual weapon.
Yeah.
You know.
And they are Chris Evans' actual stunt doubles.
Yes, it's fantastic.
Which is beautiful. And the second one, so as you look at the front of them, how there's a sort of triangle. The second one from the middle, going towards the right, was the trainer on this film.
Oh right, was he actually like the proper like stunt trainer for everyone? Yeah.
Yep.
That is so cool.
And it's so good.
It's such a good idea to like not like kind of waste talent as well. Like you've got the stunt doubles there. Use them as stunt doubles. They know what they're doing. Like
yeah,
don't fuck around.
Exactly.
Yeah, such a great idea. Like, but that fight in particular is so fun because it's just Chris Evans' character like chewing the scenery as hard as he possibly can, and it just works out so well that Scott kind of figures out the way to defeat him is to use his own ego against them. Where he's just like, yeah, you should totally like grind this rail and show everyone how cool of a skateboarder you are. It ends up like making him go like 7,000 miles an hour into the ground.
Yeah, it's so good. That whole scene as well is just filled with gold, absolute gold. In terms of, obviously we have the stunt doubles being there, we have the New York backdrop, which is a very interesting filmmaking piece because a lot of films setting New York are filmed in Canada.
Yeah, like I love that kind of like there's a throwaway line of like they say that they're going to be filming there, and like Scott's they film in Canada, like films in Canada, like everyone because they have tax breaks. God damn it!
Yeah,
I love that in every film you see by the Film Board of Canada, set in New York.
It's very, very good. I can't remember the director. The director was actually like another film legend guy.
Oh, for the director on the set, I can't remember who he was, but yeah, that's a good reference. That whole like scene, I feel, is where it kind of gets to Simpsons levels of like background information. Like you've also got like this is where you start to notice the numbers. Like every time you see a number in a scene, you know that's where the evil X is. It's like there's like 2s on his car and on like some of the shirts and stuff like that as well. It's really nicely done.
This is where it just starts because it's barely noticeable on Matthew. The only thing with him is the chevron on his arm. But yeah, it's got a while before it becomes like super elimination.
Yeah, I was going to say superliminal. That's
superliminal.
It's not subliminal anymore. It's like just like here's the numbers.
Yeah,
like because
no, it does sort of die down again when it gets to Gideon. You need to look to see it on Gideon.
Yeah, I think it's like it's almost like his G is almost like a 7 as well. Like it's the way they're all angled.
If you turn it on its side, the G's become 7s.
Yeah, but with the one that was really quite subtle, what I liked was I've forgotten her name now.
Roxy.
Roxy, yeah, sorry. Yeah, Roxy when he first meets her, because it's not her fight time, but as he's walking along, there's the 4 X's behind him.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, why is it 4? We haven't done 3 yet. And then she appears, but it's quite subtle about that one. It's quite good.
What's the other brilliant number reference is the twins.
Yes.
The twins have two major number references, and it's the keys that they're pressing on their keyboard are in from the side their number, and they're pressing like the opposing color of key for their hair.
Yep.
But the other one is when they turn the dial.
I didn't notice that one. What did they turn it to?
they turn the dial to 11.
Oh, because they're 5 and 6, aren't they?
They are 5 and 6,
5 and
but it
6,
also
so, yeah.
references Spinal Tap.
Right.
So that one's just fucking gold.
That's good. That's actually
that.
that's like many levels we're getting to now.
Oh yeah.
But we can't skip 3 though, because 3 is probably
No.
one of my. That's the one that's the bassist, right? Isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, Todd Ingram, and it's probably one of the most important bits of the film.
Yes, because we finally get to see one of the exes from Scott's past that has like ruined his life apparently.
Yeah, and it's where both of their pasts come together.
Yeah, they kind of collide. Like Ramona and Scott's pasts are now dating each other. So they're in a band.
Sorry, I was gonna drink.
Yeah, so they're in a band called Clash at Demon Head, who are like probably the biggest thing to come out of Scott's hometown, and we never really get to figure out what really happened between them, but we just assume that like she just grew too big for his boots.
Yeah, she was just like, I've got this new band, I need to go and be with this new band.
Yeah, and you're now nothing to me. But she still has this kind of like control over his life. You can
she's always sort of been there.
Yeah.
Because you get with the haircut as well. So he won't get his haircut.
Oh, right.
Because the last time he got his haircut was the same day that Envy dumped him.
Yeah, it's that idea that like she was controlling over how he looked, and he kind of like had this association of her telling him to get a haircut meant that he got dumped.
Yeah.
And it's just this kind of worry that's around him, but he also tries to ignore it as much as he can, like play it up like he's got no problems. But again, we've got comic book alumni, another captain. We've got Captain Marvel, Brie Larson as Envy Adams.
I know, that was the first film I'd seen her in.
I think that's the first film I've ever seen Brie Larson in as well. Yes.
Yep. And then Brandon Routh.
Yes. What has he played? Has he played something that's...
Oh, I wonder.
Yeah.
He was Superman.
Yes, he was. Maybe not the most popular Superman ever.
No.
But definitely...
I think he missed his time.
Yeah, he did a good job, right? But he played it Christopher Reeve, like, which is good, I suppose. That's what the Superman character is all about. He's supposed to be like this big blue Boy Scout kind of character, but it was at the wrong time when people were getting into kind of more edgy stuff. Like we had the Batman films that were getting super dark and gritty and real, and
this was Superman Returns was a little bit too campy, and we weren't ready to have that yet.
Yeah. It's a shame.
It absolutely was, and now it's just sort of no. I don't think many people are going to go back and watch Superman Returns, obviously because we've now got a new DCEU.
Yes, with like better directors, better actors.
Yeah,
but like a lot of people don't like Man of Steel, do they? Like they feel it's too dark for the.
I don't even know if it was just too dark or if it was just a bit ridiculous.
People punching it was like Dragon Ball Z in live action as far as I was concerned, and that was enough for me. Like I had a good laugh with it.
I guess the other thing is that's going to put people off Superman Returns was one of the other actors in the film is the man who played Lex Luthor.
Well, I don't really know much about him. What else is he in?
The guy who played Lex Luthor. I'm gonna need to double check.
Okay.
I've got my information right. Because I thought
your audio's cutting up now as well. I can't really hear you.
I know it's probably because my laptop tried to do another thing.
Internet twice, you bastard!
And it's just like, oh god, no, not this.
Yeah.
That's the straw. The straw on my internet's back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the actor that played Lex Luthor, I think you'll probably know him. A Mr. Spacey.
Oh, you're talking about in the Brandon Routh one.
Oh yeah, in Superman Returns.
Right, yeah, because I was thinking of Man of Steel now, and I was just like, no, I don't think that guy did anything weird. But no, not Mr. Spacey.
Was Lex Luthor in Man of Steel?
Oh shit, no. I'm thinking of the Batman versus Superman, wasn't it? That was Lex Luthor in that one.
Yeah, and that was Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
Who would have been a good counterpart to Michael Cera, I suppose. if he would.
Oh,
been in
absolutely. They are identical.
Yeah, but yeah. So
Yes.
oh,
So
we can also link in Kevin Spacey because poor fucking Edgar Wright when he tried to make his second big American movie, he hired nothing but offenders for that film.
oh, what was his next big one?
Baby Driver.
Oh shit!
Yep.
I didn't know that was a Wright film.
That's an Edgar Wright film. Yep. Again, another American film where he tried to kind of hide that he was still Edgar Wright, the British film director who exclusively worked with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a shame. Like,
Oh,
it's definitely Baby Driver is a fantastic film, but it's
I've
just
heard.
got a cursed legacy now, thanks to the lead actors being horrible people.
Mm. Oh dear.
Well, anyway, so
Back to the fucking thing.
back to the thing. Yes, so we get to meet boyfriend number 3, who is vegan.
Yes, and this is very important. Not joking around, people.
Yep.
He's not ovo-lacto vegetarian.
Oh no, not at all.
He is vegan,
He
and
is.
he actually explained something very interesting. The reason vegans are better and have psychic powers, which is a thing, is that the other 90% of your brain, we all use 10% of our brain,
Yes,
which is a true fact thing.
The other
The other 90% is filled with curds and whey.
Curds and whey. It's such a fucking great line. It's because like
It's-
they just accept it. They're like, okay,
Yeah,
I
sure.
guess that's a thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, why not?
But it's so good because like obviously being vegan makes you better than everyone else and gives you superpowers. So he can fly. He has psychokinetic abilities to throw things around. And basically this is a big losing match for Scott. But
Yeah.
the only way he can defeat him is by just exploiting the stupidity of the of him.
Yeah, he has to trick him into drinking. But that's the thing. So Scott had to know that like that was going to happen. That's see when you break that down and think about it.
Yeah.
So Scott must have either known that there was a 3-strike thing and the vegan police were going to come, or that just having broken veganism, he would have just stopped being psychic. I think.
Well, I
was
think what
probably
he was
his hope.
going for was that like if he made him stop being vegan for like 5 seconds, he probably would lose his powers. I think that's what he was hoping for.
Yeah,
but we get
that's-
an even
so-
better scene.
Oh, that's gold. That scene. Speaking of superheroes,
Yep, in comes the Punisher
Fucking
himself.
Thomas Jane breaks through the wall. I love the wall, by the way.
Oh,
I got to
it's-
see that wall twice yesterday. It's the most fake wall ever. And it
It's
looks
so
brilliant.
good. It's like proper kind of like I don't know, sitcom level of
Grey
prop.
foam bricks, yeah.
They just bust
Ah.
through with their finger guns.
Their finger guns. And it's green. Do you notice how it's green?
Yep.
Because Brandon was the Superman.
Kryptonite.
And they have their smart car in the background. That's good as well.
Yep.
Oh, how it was the smart car.
But it's when they bring up the list of all the stuff that he's broken because you get a 3-strike rule apparently, and he's like,
Yep.
well, what else have I done? And he's like, I can't remember
You
the first
ingested
one.
you ingested
Gelato.
gelato.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But gelato's not vegan.
It's milk and eggs, bitch.
It's
That
like
I was
chicken-
slightly changed the line, yeah.
Yeah.
Chicken isn't vegan.
it's chicken parmesan, and that's cheese and chicken.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, chicken's not vegan.
Yeah. I love the idea that if Scott takes away his vegan powers, Scott would have a chance
Yes.
at fighting Brandon Ruth,
No, he still
who
wouldn't.
probably has like a good foot on him both vertically and horizontally.
Yeah. So the only way he gets defeated is by being sent away by the vegan police by taking away his powers and demoralizing him, and that's it.
Yeah. Oh, and then he has to headbutt him.
Yeah, you
till he
headbutts him
explodes.
into. Was it Envy says at that point? It's something like you just headbutted
Oh,
my boyfriend into oblivion or something.
Yeah, you headbutted him so hard he exploded.
Oh, it's so good.
Ah. You know, that point there when Julie popped back in and says, "I'm so pissed for you right now," that was going to be their opportunity to use their one swear.
Oh, was it?
You get one swear in a PG-13 film.
Yes.
Originally, it was going to be Julie turns and says, "Shut the fuck up, Julie." But they didn't. They used it earlier, and
Which one did you
when
use?
when Scott tells off Todd and tells him to stop being such a cocky cock.
Oh, was that it?
That was
That's the
that was
American
their
level
swear.
of swear. Wow,
Yep.
that's pretty bad. But I
Yeah.
mean, obviously we can. You've got a great cameo in this film. I mean, it's not really a cameo; she's a recurring character. But oh shit, what? Have I forgotten her name already?
Aubrey Plaza.
Aubrey Plaza. Right. Okay, we'll say that
Oh,
again. So we got a great
yeah.
cameo, got main character in the form of Aubrey Plaza, who plays essentially a character who is like fourth wall breaking in a sense.
Yeah, but it's less sort of fourth wall breaking because um again it's the whole like Scott is he's the one imagining the black bars. He's the one breaking the fourth wall there.
Is it because like she doesn't she seems self aware that she is censoring because he asks how do you do that and she's like you just shut the as
Yeah.
it appears over her mouth.
Yeah, I guess.
It's kind of
Um
it's fun because like obviously other people have like kind of weird powers in this film that are not ever explained because they don't need to because it's a fucking comic book.
yeah.
But I do enjoy hers as the ability to self censor to
Yep.
fit herself into
Makes
a PG
makes
13
it
cartoon.
very handy.
It's very good.
So in the dressing room for the when they're all sort of sitting there, there's two sort of fun bits about that. Introduces one of the it's the second point where they use CGI where you might not have thought they used CGI, and
Okay.
you ask yourself why would they? Is when Todd punches the highlights out of Knives' hair.
Oh God, it's so well done. I don't even like
So
notice it.
the highlight on the floor, like on the
Mhm.
carpet and that's CGI.
Oh, so it's not just like they threw paint on the ground at that point. It's all
No,
still
there was it was
CGI.
actually it was actually CGI'd on the floor.
That is so good.
I know.
It's just the way that like everyone's just like accepts that as a thing. They're like, you punched the highlights out of her hair.
And so that was Johnny Simmons who plays young Neil. That was his audition tape.
Was it?
Yeah. So he sent that to Edgar Wright. But he says it twice. It was never originally planned to be said twice. It was just once,
Yeah.
and it was just the drama and the raw emotion that he says it with.
It's just the second time,
Edgar-
like it's the worst crime in the world. If you're, you punched-
Edgar Wright and Michael Cera watched it through like 10 times, and they were just like, "It's so good."
how do you dedicate your emotion to something so trivial?
Punch the highlights out of it. Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, it's so good.
I think that's one of the things we kind of have to like really discuss about this film is the comedy timing of Edgar Wright. The way like every scene is set up. It's so good.
Yeah.
Like you never get a chance to kind of really respond to one joke before something else happens. It's kind of like jokes just are the status quo in this universe.
Yeah. And they're again a lot of them are they're very simple, and I love simple comedy. I love stuff that's so well timed and so just subtle.
Mhm.
Like the Todd when Envy says you're incorrigible and he says I don't know the meaning of the word, and it just says he doesn't.
He
It
really
really
doesn't. It's so good because like one of my favorite comedy moments comes just after that fight where like Scott kind of has to break up with Knives, right? Because they obviously like he's got Ramona Flowers now, and he's been leading them both along just to see what he can get out of it because he's a dick, right? Let's face it.
Yeah, he's a dick.
He's been told 5,000 times to break up with Knives at this point, and he never fucking does until this point. And he breaks up with her, but we get this amazing scene just after where like Knives comes round to his house to see if he's in. Like she's just like, is Scott there? And like we get this amazing like it's like visual comedy moment where like they open the door, right? And you can see Scott just in the background, and the door just swings past him, and the camera pans back, so you just can't see him anymore. And then like he, like when she says, "Is he really not there?" and he like dives out the window in the background. But
You know what? He just left.
He just left. But then his hand comes
so
back in
good.
and grabs his coat and runs behind her.
And yeah, you see him run past. It's so good. It's so well done.
It's like, oh, it's amazing use of CGI and visual comedy. Like, it's just so well combined. It's
CGI.
I mean, yeah, I can assume that was not done in one shot, and somehow they managed to blend it so seamlessly into one shot.
Oh, the jumping out of the window.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't CGI. It probably wasn't done in one shot, but it wasn't CGI. Someone did that.
I would need to
that was
research into
that
that.
was part of the audio commentary. So when I watched this, I watched 2 of the 4 audio commentaries, and Ellen Wong asked Michael Cera in the commentary, was like, "Was that actually?" And he was like, "No, someone jumped out that window."
But like, how would you get the momentum to smash that tiny window?
There must have been like a springboard or something.
Like, but the way that blends together, that must have been like some good editing to get it all to look like the one scene.
Absolutely.
Actually, maybe they could have set it up that they had like a stunt double jump through the window and like Michael Cera be in the background, then go round and grab the coat from the window. Like that could have been done.
Yeah.
But it's so well done. It's comedy at its finest, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Oh God. So after the fight with
Todd.
After the fight with Todd, the Toddman, they go along to the bar named Thor.
Yep.
Superliminal.
Yeah, we've given up at this point.
Number 4.
Yes, we've seen her before, and now she's back.
Yes. Roxy Richter comes back, and Scott gets it. Scott gets it now. And he literally, in his brain, it shows no clue, gets it.
Yeah.
Again, super subtle, super easy,
because
super quick.
There's a running joke throughout the entire thing. Like, this is quite good where it differs from the comic book. In the comic book, they always say 7 evil ex-boyfriends. Right, that was always what she said in the comic book. In the movie, she makes sure to correct every time Scott says that to go, no, 7 evil exes. He's like, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't care. Yeah. Until he realizes that she had a thing with Roxy. And then he's like, wait, what?
Her phase, if you will. Yeah, her sexy phase.
You had a sexy phase? Yeah. It's just, it's so funny how, like, how much of a dick he really is that comes across that way to him. Like, all the other exes, he's like, oh, super grumpy about, and like, oh, you had this guy, and I'm really jealous. And then he's like, you had a girl? Oh, boy!
Yeah. Oh, my. And that, again, that was another, like, they were discussing, it's like, would you consider your partner having a same-sex partner in their previous life? Would you consider that a sexy phase? Because I would. I think Edgar Wright was just like, yeah, I think that.
It's so funny though, like the way it's played off, and that like he now immediately goes, well, I'm not going to fight a girl. Like I don't want to do this, despite having punched her in the tit, as she said earlier on.
Yeah, punched her in the boob.
He punched me in the boob.
Oh, can we discuss some of Mae Whitman's lines at that moment? It's like, first of all, you punched me in the boob. Second one, prepare to die, obviously.
Obviously. It's the way she delivers all her like one-liners in this fight as well. It's so good.
And next time I'll be deadly ready next time.
What?
Wright and Michael Bacall did so well. They did so well with some of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, every character in this feels like so unique. You know, the way they all have their own brand of like I don't know, their own lexicon almost. Like they all speak in kind of like their own silly little ways, their own teen speak, but like in particular, the differences between them all is quite striking. Because obviously
every character is like themselves, and they've been developed so subtly, but you notice it with every character. So, like, let's take for example, like immediately Stephen Stills. Like straight away, you've got his design in terms of wardrobe. So he's always got those sort of like the Western style shirts, with like the patches on the shoulder.
Yeah, he's grunge to a core sort of thing, you know. Yeah,
and then the way he speaks, he's always very exacerbated, but his main focus is always the band. But he's always worried when when new stuff comes along for the band, like, oh, we're now in a battle of the bands. Now we've got an amp versus amp. Oh man, we've got this record deal. Oh my god! And he's always sort of
he's like the conscience. He's like the worry wart of the entire thing. Like he's the only one that's trying to make sure this band succeeds.
Yeah, but it's all such tiny stuff. And Stephen Stills is not too big of a character in terms of like, because obviously you've got your main sort of main 3, I'd say, are like Scott, Ramona, and probably Knives.
Yeah. I mean, the only one that kind of like, I would say comes in as like a bigger supporting actor in this entire thing is Wallace Wells, and Wallace Wells, played by Kieran Culkin, is phenomenal dialogue.
He's
Like he's
brilliant.
He's like a Gossip Girl type person who seems to be like he seems to be the moral for Scott, but at the same time he does immoral things himself. That as long as he's happy with it, like
Yeah.
he steals Scott's sister's boyfriend off of him. Has like 3 other boyfriends at the same time. One of them called Scott.
Yes. Ah.
He's a fucking great, funny character. He's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So they were back to the bar, at number 4. Scott's refusing to fight. So Ramona reckons that she'll confront some of her past.
Yep.
And with every fight, there's always most of the time, there's usually a little versus that pops up on screen.
Yeah.
And this time it's pink, because it's a girl versus girl
It's
fight.
girl fight.
Girls are pink, and that's the thing that happens. And that's a really well edited fight, really well choreographed as well. Mae Whitman, she has her sort of the steel whip that goes around.
Oh, the belt, this is the thing. Like everyone who was like an edgy kid in like the early kind of 2000s all had like these spiky belts. So like to weaponize that is just fantastic. Like it's such a good bit of costume design, really. Yeah.
And to make it feel obviously more video gamey, Ramona pulls a giant hammer from her hammer space or mallet space.
Yes.
In her bag.
Yep. I love that
because that's the thing.
The movie kind of glosses over a lot of these like bizarre elements that are in the comic book, where people seem to have like subspace travel and like to pocket dimensions and stuff like that. It's just who cares? It's a film. You'll get it when they do it.
Yeah, it's just sort of breezed past. Like earlier when they go to Ramona's house, somehow she's just like, oh, there's a thingy over here somewhere.
Yeah, there's a
and
door.
Then they just fly through the air.
Yeah, it's like,
and you're just like, hold on a second.
They're like warp zones in Mario, essentially.
Yeah, they just sort of appear randomly.
Yeah, it's so good. But like, I think one of the best things about this fight when it kind of kicks off is the fact that like Scott's just been like the biggest dick he's ever been at that point. Like he just refuses to accept that he has any troubles and is just like being a total bitch to Ramona. But at the same time, kind of after the fight's over, Ramona's still like, well, you're the best boyfriend nicest boyfriend I've ever had. And when you think about that, it's like, oh, it's not really a compliment. Really, it's kind of just her saying everyone was worse.
When your competition is these seven other horrible people.
Yeah.
It's not. Which actually goes very well towards the next scene when they're preparing for the Katayanagi twins, because she hands him. He says, "Oh, if you could give me like a list of all the people you've dated, preferably laminated," and she hands him a laminated sheet of all the people she's dated.
Yep. They're
like, "Oh, the Katayanagi twins. Who are they?" The next scene, Scott Pilgrim is wearing a 4.5 shirt.
4.5. Yep.
So Scott's wardrobe is a very important deal throughout the whole thing, but we can come to that later on.
Yes.
Scott's wearing his 4.5 shirt, which is very important at this point. So 4.5 can mean a couple things. He's halfway between fights 4 and 5/6. But also, the half is representative of him being halfway to becoming an evil X himself.
Yes, because at that point, we're not too sure whether or not he's been dumped because of how much of a dick he's being, and obviously, he hasn't spoken to her in a while. So that shirt does a great job of saying like you're just after like the 4th Aslan evil X kind of at this point.
Yeah, he's shown himself to be no better than them at all.
Yeah. Then we get on to this. I don't know. This in my opinion, this is the worst fight in the entire movie, where it's the twins versus them in a battle of the bands. Because but
it's not really a battle of the bands. It's more a battle of the animated CGI monsters.
Yes, I think that's where it kind of drones a bit, because like all the other fights were kind of like giant cinematic pieces. This one kind of felt like they were like, we don't really know what to do here, so let's just have monsters fight each other and we'll just do it in post, sort of thing.
Although it does bring in a nice wee sprinkle of So obviously, for the first time, we get to actually see Jason Schwartzman, Gideon.
Yes. The
That's the first
G-Man
time he's on
himself.
screen. The G-Man Graves.
Yep.
The monster itself and Scott, while he is performing, both have green eyes.
Yeah, I noticed this on like this viewing, because like every other time I hadn't really noticed it, and then because her hair changes to green in this scene, and then we get to this point with like the eyes become green on the monster and Scott and stuff, and it's like this must be like just the envy maybe coming through, like
Absolutely,
not the character
is.
envy.
He's
Yeah.
he's just totally envious of Gideon, and thinks that he, because he obviously still wasn't sure if him and Ramona were a thing anymore.
Yeah.
And then Gideon has immediately been able to come back in and say, Ramona's mine now.
Yeah.
He's just like, what the hell are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's that, but there's also obviously green linking to her hair now being green.
Yeah.
His outfit throughout the film always eventually matches her clothes at that point as well, clothes and hairstyle.
Right. Okay.
His outfit changes to meet. Again, wardrobe is such an important thing in this whole film.
Yes, it's where
So
90% of the references are. Like,
yeah.
And all the kind of like character points. If you want to see what they're feeling, look at their shirt. Look at the way they're dressed, hair colors.
But again, the fight itself wasn't a huge thing. There's a really, really lovely shot with Ellen Wong when Scott goes through the crowd.
Yeah.
And Ellen Wong's Knives is just sort of standing there with her hood up, and there's snow in her hair, and she's just looking dead somber, and it's just a really nice shot.
Yeah, just because it kind of shows that, like, again, that we don't really need to know at this point, but like we know that Scott's a bit of an asshole and self-centered, but she's just like, hey, I just came to see your show, that's about it, and Scott's just like, cool,
whatever, bye,
I gotta go.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is where it kind of gets to a point where we see exactly, like, he has become full ego at this point, because he's he essentially, like, he walks out on his band at this point, because Gideon is like, hey, I'll sign you up right now, and Scott does not give a single fuck. He's just like, replace me, I don't give a shit, like, and then walks Neil to just be like, yeah, I'll take it, and like, but it doesn't seem to faze him in the slightest, because all he cares about is just getting what he wants, and that's just Ramona. It's almost kind of like he's the same as Gideon at this point. He kind of just wants to possess her for his own purposes, sort of thing. Like, he's just jealous more than anything else.
Yeah, it's just like Ramona is just this prize now.
Yeah,
it's just this end goal.
It's kind of like that video game trope thing, of like, the girl is the prize, go defeat the bad guys. But that's,
which is a horrible way to think of it, but obviously, it blends really well into the whole video game comic booky feel.
Exactly, like it knows its tropes, and it knows what it's doing with them, because it gets to this kind of point where, like, essentially we know where this is going. Like, it's going to be the big showdown between Gideon and Scott, and we get into it. But there's it's just the way that it's done. It's got this great kind of idea of, like, it shows you, like, Scott coming in and being, like, all super powerful and thinking he's the best, and he's like, I'm gonna do this for love, and, like, I'm gonna get you and win you, and he gets himself fucking killed because
he fucking dies. He straight up dies.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's fucking fantastic, that idea that, like, saying, no, that's not the right answer, Scott. Like,
yeah, try again.
Yeah.
And that's because he won that one up during the fight with the cat. He wins.
He got an extra life, like a chance to do a do-over, to maybe become a better person.
Yeah.
I mean, I can kind of glossed over the point that, like, mostly why he dies is because there's a fight between Knives and Ramona, because Knives is under the impression that Ramona basically stole Scott from her.
Yeah.
Whereas Scott was just cheating on both of them, really, and he doesn't want to accept that he's done anything wrong. No,
he just sort of he's trying to fucking finagle his way out of it and be like, you weren't wrong. Yeah, I did it because of this, and no, just there's no way around it, Scott.
No,
you're an
own
asshole.
Up to it. Like, you knew what you were doing, and everyone else knew what you were doing. You just can't admit it. It's the hard part, and so he gets his opportunity in death to kind of, like, reflect on where he went wrong,
Mhm.
and he slightly becomes a better person, shall we say?
Yeah, only a little bit.
Only a little bit. Gains the power of self-respect, I think, is all he gets. He hasn't learned
Yeah.
respect for others, but he's learned respect for himself. And
Yeah,
owning
and
up
I
to his
guess
shit.
as the film sort of ends, he's like, well, why don't we try again?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good opportunity for him. He's not got to worry about her past anymore, so he could maybe work on developing himself,
Yes.
and think about himself more, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because the metaphors come like full circle at this point. They've both kind of defeated their pasts and moved on
Yeah.
from there, and it's kind of like they're meeting each other for the first time again.
Mhm.
And it's got this kind of somber moment because you realize throughout like the major battle, like Knives and Scott were like kind of, they were really good for each other if Scott wasn't an asshole, right?
Yeah.
And that's the main thing, is like Scott and Ramona are both dickheads in a sense, so they kind of deserve each other.
Yeah, and that's it. She's confessed that she dabbled in being a bitch. Now he's
Yeah.
dabbled in being an asshole, so they can work together.
Yeah, because we get that amazing
Hopefully not
scene at the
being
end
that.
after he's defeated Gideon, where Nega Scott turns up.
yes.
Like in all good video games, when you don't have another boss fight, you've got yourself to fight.
Yes, he fights Dark Link.
Yes, but
Yes.
it's that idea that like he gets to him, and he's like, we just hung out, we just shot the shit, we just chatted about some stuff.
We're gonna go grab brunch on Tuesday. Like, yeah, I think that was I can't remember if that was an Edgar Wright or if that was a Michael Bacall idea, but they were just like, wouldn't it be brilliant if they just ended up being friends?
Yes, because
If they just didn't fight.
I think the character of Nega Scott, I seem to remember, because I haven't read the comic in ages, I think he was kind of just there as like to show his bad personality quite a lot of the time. Like,
Mhm.
like there was actually kind of a direct conflict between the two of them throughout the most of the story, whereas in the film it just kind of shows up to kind of be like, right, accept the bad side of yourself and maybe like work on it, which
Yeah.
is a really nice metaphor. I do enjoy that. It was a good way to deal with that character.
Yeah, and I think they also discussed as well. It's like no, they were thinking that the fans would be dreading another fight, or people watching the film
Yes,
would be like, "Oh God, it's
come on,
another fight."
we've just
yeah,
had one. Yeah.
yeah. So the fact they just went, you know what? Let's just have them be friends. That's fine. That's good. Send it,
No, I mean like it works on
and it works. Yeah,
on a
it
better
so
level.
definitely
I
works.
think. Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't always have
Um,
to fight things. You can maybe just like come to terms with them. Like it's a
Yeah.
good message to end a film on, in my opinion.
there was an alternate ending as well. Have you seen the alternate ending?
I think so. It's been a
It's-
long time since I've seen it, because I remember I think it's on the DVD. The alternative ending, is that one where he goes to Knives?
Yeah, he just ends up with knives.
Yeah, I don't like it because, as people have said, she is better than him. Like, she doesn't
Yeah, no.
deserve to have this person who's probably gonna like just wear her down, and he's already like cheated on her. He's already been like a total asshole and neglected her.
Yeah,
She doesn't deserve that. Like, she'll get over it. She's a teenager. She'll find love somewhere else.
in young Neil.
Maybe in young Neil,
Oh.
even though she used him as a rebound.
Yeah, but he wasn't cheated on. He was fine, and he seemed happy with it as well when they were
Yeah.
at the bar.
And he seemed to genuinely like care about her when her highlights got punched out. So he can be a nice
Exactly.
guy. Yeah, he's the better
Never
Scott.
I've never seen more emotion in anyone else.
It's great. But
So that's Scott Pilgrim. But all
Yes.
my days, is there more to talk about?
100%. This film
Oh
is
my!
laden with like references and like trivia, and I don't
There's-
even know where to
There's
start.
just so much stuff. You could go through this with a fine-tooth comb. Like I thought I'd seen this film a lot, and I have.
I think I've seen it maybe like 5 times, 6 times. I don't know now.
But
What
when
about
I
you?
watched it, the first time I saw it, I never saw it in cinemas. The first time
I
I
did.
saw it was in first year. I saw it in first year of uni in like 2012,
Okay.
and then it was like a regular. It was a mainstay, and I was watching it almost every year, maybe a couple times.
Wow,
So-
really? Like it's crazy dedication.
So my flatmate was huge on Scott Pilgrim, loved Scott Pilgrim. It was quite probably one of his favorite films, and it's probably in my top 5, I'd say, just because of that sort of relationship.
Yes.
Um,
I think that like a lot of Edgar Wright movies end up in my top 10s. Like Shaun of the Dead is definitely in there. Like I feel like that
Yeah.
movie is the perfect rom-com, and this one kind of almost is the same.
Yeah, it's so crazy to think of Shaun of the Dead as a rom-com,
It
but it
is. It's like
totally is.
it's the fucking
It
best
totally
romantic
is.
comedy ever, because like it doesn't have those dumb tropes in it. Like, you know, when it gets to the end, it's like they kind of end up together because they realize that you don't need a big gesture or like a fucking like
Don't need
grand
someone with a
life.
boombox outside the window,
Yeah,
right?
you just need someone who you can actually trust and love and hang out with. Like that's perfect. Like, you know, they had it all along, but she was just too focused on dumb shit that didn't matter. It's good.
This film has a lot of, it's got a lot of references to pop culture.
Hmm.
It's got so many references to pop culture, but it's also got a lot of references to like other films and stuff like that. I say films like the background of films, so not even like so one of the great things, you know our love of Blade Trinity
Yeah, oh
and
god.
the
Fucking
ridiculousness
hell.
of what went on with that film.
Ah.
So the line from when Scott fights against Lucas Lee and he tells him about the stunt double, and he's like, yeah, I let him do the wide shots when I feel like getting blazed in my Winnie. That was taken from behind the scenes of Blade
Blade,
Trinity,
Blade Trinity,
where
yeah.
that is something that Wesley Snipes would do.
It was, yeah. They've
Yeah, he would just go and
absolute
get fucking
madman.
high in his trailer.
And like it's such a great like reference to make, because like Wesley Snipes in Blade Trinity is just like there's so much to pull from. Like there's
Yeah.
a comedy goldmine, but that's great.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
What else do we? One of the other weirdest things, and it's you don't notice it unless you're looking for it, is in the scene where Scott first talks to Ramona at the house party,
Mhm.
and they're up against the wall, and it's a very very big shot, because you see a lot of the wall, and right next to the door frame, way up high, is a light switch.
Is there?
Way up, yeah, way up near the top of this door frame. We're talking 7 feet off the ground.
What? What's going
Right.
on here?
This was some old frat house, and they just recorded it, and everyone was like, "We need to include this because that is
It's bizarre.
insane. Why is that a thing?"
It's kind of like where you'd put like maybe like an isolator switch or something for like an extractor fan, not for a light switch or something. That's
Yeah.
fucking crazy.
It's
Some
so
7 foot
strange.
guy could only switch on and off the lights in the house.
I know.
Uh, I mean, like all the kind of things, like it's so hard to make a list of all the stuff, but like there's one of the ones I remember that Edgar Wright said like he wanted to try and license as much stuff as he could, and it was a like minefield to get like stuff from various other places, but he managed to get the Legend of Zelda sort of like, I think it's like the fairy fountain sort of sound
Yeah.
for the
Loads of Zelda sounds.
for like the scene where he gets to dream it first. It's got that kind of
Mhm.
like little the fairy fountain sort of theme playing in the background. That's like, I think he fought like really hard to make sure that was still in it, because Nintendo hold on to their properties something fierce.
Yeah. I think there was a fan letter involved with getting the music from or the bass line from Seinfeld.
Oh, for the Seinfeld scene, right? That is a bizarre bit of comedy there, where they turn it into an actual like studio sitcom for 5 seconds for no reason.
But it works. And there's a funny moment because it's treated like a sitcom until at one point where Wallace flicks a switch on the wall,
Yep.
and then it stops.
Yep. Just off
So
goes the
it's
laugh
so
track.
sort of, yeah.
Uh,
That's really well done. There's a lot of other video game sounds involved. There was obviously the Street Fighter and Virtua Fighter noises. There's the Sonic Ring music that comes in when
Yes.
he doesn't know what incorrigible means.
And there's also
Um,
like the certain coin sound effects and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
The scoreboard
in terms
sound
of-
effects. Like there's so many like good references, but I'm trying to like think of ones that are maybe not so like out there. It's hard.
So there's other in terms of Ramona's hair, the hair choices go with the 3 goddesses from Zelda as well.
Oh, do they? Right. Okay.
Yeah, you got pink for Din, blue for Nehru, and green for Furore.
Yeah. I also really like that like Ramona's like, you notice like the star in her bag would also change color, like
Yep. That
depending
changed
on her
for their
hair. Like it's almost like she's like a mood ring, you know, like her
Yeah.
and her body just changes to signify. Like it's crazy.
The ages, the act. So this was a fun one. Michael Cera during filming was 22.
Right. Yeah.
Anna Kendrick, who plays his little sister, is 25.
I thought that, like,
And
see, when I watched that, I was like, how is she the younger sister? I was assuming she was the older sister, but like, no, apparently 18.
and Ellen Wong, who plays 17-year-old Knives Chow, is 25 as well.
Oh, fucking hell, really? Well,
Yeah.
yeah. She does look like a young girl, though, so she did really well.
Yeah. There's a really good moment where when Scott goes into Second Cup, the coffee place, to see Stacy, but she'd like just left.
Yeah. Like out the
as
back,
soon as
the
you go
same
in-
kind of visual joke, because she's just left and she's he walks around the background.
Yeah. There's again, it's another blink and you miss it, like so many of them. You see the actual Stacey O'Malley is sitting on her Mac in the cafe.
Oh, right.
So Brian Lee O'Malley's little sister is there.
I didn't know that. I didn't notice that.
Yep.
It's a good one.
Oh god, there's.
I mean, like, obviously
so-
the most obvious one is the Sex Bob-omb, which is a reference to Mario,
The
if anyone
Mario-
doesn't know
Mario
that.
Bob-ombs, yeah.
Yep.
Clash at Demon
Right.
Head was a game itself.
Yes, it was. Yeah. Yes.
What was it? Crash and the Boys was a video game.
Yep.
The Chaos Theater was named after the Chaos Theater in Earthbound.
Oh, right. I didn't
Yep.
notice that.
That was from-
reference.
that was
That's a
from
good one.
Earthbound.
That's a good one. Like, I
Oh,
see at
God.
one point, am I right in saying that he's wearing a Rock Band T-shirt? Like,
Yes, he is. That's the bass.
yes, the
It's
bass.
his red
like, 'cause, like-
T-shirt. That's the bass guitar.
Because when you pick up each instrument, they'll have their own logos in Rock Band, and like he's got the bass guitar logo one because he's it's kind of like the
bassist.
video game reference within the thing. It's pretty cool.
Yep. And so the reason it happened was, what happened? Brian Lee O'Malley hated the idea of Rock Band.
Oh, right.
And he openly said, like, he outly said to the world, is like, what's the point of Rock Band? Why not just play an instrument? So Rock Band sent him a copy, and he quickly changed his mind, and he was like, I actually love this.
This is it, because it's a fucking party game, man. Have fun. Like,
Yeah,
it's not for
yeah,
people
exactly.
to like make a real band. It's for people to scream and shout and hit some stuff.
Yeah. The guys who play the band, they all had to train with their instruments. So Mark Webber, Alison Pill all had to like train to drum and learn guitar.
Yeah.
Except for Michael Cera, who actually had to dumb it down because he was already like
He was actually like a good
He was
bass
good at
player.
bass,
yeah.
which is another, the music. Oh my god, the music for this
Mhm.
is astounding. It was the musical supervisor and composer was Nigel Godrich, who has worked with, he's been in other bands, but he's also worked a lot with Radiohead,
Right.
like, working with their stuff in the background. But obviously, like, you've got all the
Oh.
individual composed songs
'Cause I was
for
gonna-
the.
I was gonna say, like,
Go on.
see when you the Ramona Flowers song, right?
Mhm.
Like, see the final version of it in the credits. It
Yeah.
has very much like the production sound of Radiohead at that time period. So that's why
Yeah.
I was kind of wondering about that. I'm glad you brought that up. I don't know why in my head I was just like, this kind of sounds like a Radiohead cover of it. Like it's got the same production
So
values.
that version of it, the ending credits one, because it's timed with the continue 10-9, like the continue
yeah.
countdown, that was made out to be very much like Space Oddity.
Yeah, like 4, 2, 1.
Yeah,
This
so it's got the
is
countdown to that as well, and it's got the same. I think it's got the same time signature.
Yeah, it does. Yes.
But yeah, so Ramona's a brilliant song written by Beck. Beck was obviously was involved with all the music as well.
Right. That's really cool.
Yeah, did you not know that Beck wrote a lot of the songs for this?
He wrote the song Ramona. That's brilliant because it's such a like an obvious song. Like it's just the way it's kind of like the chord progression and then like just going Ramona.
Yeah. I know.
I love the way she says when he does that for her. He's like,
No,
oh,
I
I'd love
can't
to
wait
hear
for
when it's finished. And he's just like, what?
Finished. The title character, Scott Pilgrim, is based off a song by the band Plum Tree, which he wears the shirt of,
Yes.
along with his other brilliant shirts like Match Pick and Sharpie. Sharpie didn't have a t-shirt. They had to make that one up. They
brilliant.
literally, so that was one of the shirts from the graphic novel, and they actually had to design it for the
right.
film.
Was that because like Brian Lee O'Malley probably drew with Sharpies because like most of his style is quite like thick lines? And
Probably, yeah. He wears the Smashing Pumpkins t-shirt as well, obviously because it's got the SP logo.
I just kind of thought of one as well. Obviously, the battle of the bands thing. It's Double Dragons. That's a video
Double
game
Dragon
reference.
video game reference
Yes.
as well. Yeah.
We could go on for hours probably with this.
You can see when there is like one shot of the moon, and it's very quick. But you can see that there has been 2 holes punched in it.
Oh right, like from the comic where they have the fight.
Yeah. So there's one from Todd punching a hole for Ramona, and there's another one for Todd punching one for Envy, I believe.
Oh right, yeah.
What's the other? I don't know if there's any other like major references I have, but again, it's another one of those you've got to watch it.
I think like if you go to like the IMDb page, I think it's like a 17,000 scroller for references. Like you probably could not find enough in this, and the fact that like we're getting more trivia for it like now in the future because like so many of the cast went on to do like comic book films, it becomes like a breeding ground for big names in comic book movies.
One of the most interesting things I found out about this, because I don't know if you could would this be considered a modern cult classic, or would you just call this just a modern cult film? Like,
so I have this like odd problem of not being able to really kind of accept anything from my time period as classic, if you know.
Yeah.
Like it's obviously just like a generational thing where you're just like, here, no, that was yesterday, man. Like this movie came out like oh my god, when?
It always feels weird if you were to call something modern a classic. Like to me, a classic is something that was produced like from the 70s back. Like
but this is like 2010,
2010,
2010, right? Yeah,
10 years old. So the budget for this film was $85 million.
Well spent.
Do you want to take a stab at how much it made at the box office?
Oh no, please don't tell me it was a flop.
48.1 million.
Why?
It dropped almost 40k. 40 million, sorry. Like, but here's the thing. I know I love this film, and when I talk about it with my friend group, it's a huge deal, and it's a great film, and we love it, and there's so much to talk about.
Yeah,
I don't know that it's widely talked about.
It's definitely like a cult classic film in my opinion, then, right? Like, because it is like I feel like it would be something that everyone can kind of relate to at any level. Like, even if you don't get the kind of the generational, like the kind of hip things of the time during this film, it still like holds up as a story that everyone should kind of relate to. Like, you should learn to love yourself as a younger person and respect the people you are with, like, you know, or the relationships you're trying to form. It's got a good message. And it's also fucking awesome to watch. Like, it's just visually appealing. The CGI doesn't look dated because it intentionally tries to look comic booky. It's timeless, really. Yeah.
I would absolutely recommend this film to absolutely anyone and everyone. I would love to, but there's some people that I know wouldn't enjoy it because of what it is and how ridiculous it is. I know that some people just it might not be for them.
Because, like, if you think about it kind of like logically, this movie is almost like kind of Bollywood in a sense. Like, if you replaced all the dance scenes with fight scenes, it's got that same sort of structure. Like, where it's kind of like, oh, here's all the kind of the drama and the fun, and then it's like, and here comes the big like choreographed scene, like everyone gets into and does their routine. So I can see why it's not for everyone, but at the same time, there's so much to love about it.
yeah, and definitely, if you enjoy it, read the comics. And this is one of the weird ones of like the whole debate of, you know, reading the source material versus watching the movie and which order to do them and all that stuff. This one doesn't matter. Yeah. Because they're totally different.
But they're good adaptations. That's the thing. It's like they're both good versions of the story.
Exactly. And that's the creator obviously the Brian Lee O'Malley, who had the original story, he had his ideas. He had some ideas for how the story was going to go originally, and he gave some ideas to Edgar Wright, and he was like, "Look, this is some stuff."
Yeah.
And they have different kinds of endings. They've got different content. They're different enough that it doesn't matter which way you do them. And they were finished at different times. Like the film was finished first.
Yeah.
So you can't even say like,
Again, it's the Game of Thrones thing, but like the problem with Game of Thrones is it had no vision from the showrunners. Like they just cared about like making money and getting to budget constraints and stuff like that. They just kind of wanted to get it finished within whatever they had from the studio to still do it. Whereas this, you can tell that like there was other like artists and like creative minds working on it to come up with like their own version of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, this is a film that has so much care put into it, so much attention to detail, and just so much love.
Do you know what makes me sad though when I'm rewatching this is knowing that we never got the Edgar Wright Ant-Man movie that we deserved. Like, like to think if he could have made something like this level of comic book daft caper, but using like a really fun like Marvel property, that could have been an immense movie. Like,
did they keep some of his writing for the film?
A lot of his dialogue and some of the storyboard elements were still used. Yes,
because there's some stuff you can tell that's just like comedically better than other bits.
What's the? I honestly can't remember the name of the character because I've only seen Ant-Man once. But there's like the kind of like Mexican guy, maybe.
Yeah, the Latin American guy who meets him in the van and he's like describing what all happened in his time.
Of the way he delivers those lines and kind of like cuts back to like explain stuff. That's 100% Edgar Wright storyboard thing. Like you can feel that the way it's like edited and put together.
Right.
But because he worked for ages on that film and none of it like came to light. That's a shame.
Yeah.
Guess that's why he went off and made Baby Driver then, because he was like, nah, fuck it. Like,
I'm gonna go make my own film about fast cars and heists.
No, but that's
stuff.
That's a great thing though, like, because like one of the reasons everyone should go and see Baby Driver, is because that film is an original concept. It's not an adaptation. It's not anything else. It's just pure like action car chase glory. That was just such a great storyline. But yeah, obviously people don't go see original movies nowadays. They only just want to see like adaptations or like stuff they know is safe. So
good. What a film.
Yeah.
What a film.
Trying to think if there's anything else really to kind of say about like Scott Pilgrim, but I feel like we covered all of it.
Pretty much. I mean, there's also we talked about the wardrobe. Oh God. This was the film debut of Ellen Wong.
Was it?
Yeah, that was her first film.
That's pretty cool. I did not know that.
I don't know if I've got anything else to say except just go watch the film.
Yeah, like I forgot about the flipping line that we could have used for that section there when we're talking about the comic book versus the film. On his second life, when he comes back into the club, the guy in the background is just pure like, the comic book was way better than the movie.
Yeah, they look to like address hipster culture, and they say it several times. Like young Neil at one point is like, "Oh, they're definitely better live. You should see them live."
Well, they're seeing them live.
Yeah, when they're actually there.
Yeah, and then the guy says it in the first round. He's like, "Oh, the first album was their best work. It'd never get any better than that," sort of thing. It's like, oh man. So many good background jokes.
Go watch the film.
Yeah,
I just need to go and watch the other 2 audio commentaries now. There's 4 different audio commentaries, man.
I think I'm definitely going to have to go watch some of the audio commentaries because there's too much in this to really kind of pick up.
Yeah. So there's one with Wright, Bacall, and O'Malley.
That sounds a good combo.
There's one with Edgar Wright and Bill Hope, the DP.
Right.
There's one with Michael Cera, Jason Schwartzman, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and Ellen Wong. But then Brandon Routh turns up about 10 minutes later with with food for them all.
Nice. Did he bring a
He's
nice
just-
vegan latte for everyone?
No, it was from Astro Burger.
Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely
And
not
then
vegan.
there is another one, which is Kieran Culkin, Mark Webber, Anna Kendrick, and Aubrey Plaza.
Oh, that would be very good. Those guys are like very sharp-witted.
So I got about 5 minutes into it, or I started listening to it, and they're like, "Hello," and Aubrey, no, it was Anna Kendrick or Aubrey Plaza was just like, "I'm very hungover. We're getting coffee brought in." So, and they were like, "Listen, nobody's listened to this. If anyone is, they're not expecting anything." So
Wow.
I might need to go back and watch that one because I never did finish that one.
You know what I really need in my life is a Blade Trinity track that's just Wesley Snipes as Blade commentating on that film. That'd be brilliant.
It just starts off with "God damn
God
this film." This film.
These young kids these days think they can come in and tell me how to do my job.
I'm going to my Winnebago.
Just cue inhaling sounds.
Ah. Yes, delightful film.
Should we maybe think of an outro or like what we up to?
Oh, well, what do you mean? What we're up to?
I mean, like we need to. I guess we have to have some way to wrap up the video if we're editing it.
Well, I've got to go and sell some diamonds for some prints now. I've got to go and send some strong-worded emails.
Wait, so it's not the prince that's sending the emails? That's the wrong way around, I think.
No, well, I mean, he was at first, but when I showed interest,
He just seemed to stop. Well, that's a shame.
exactly.
What are you gonna do
that
with all
tends to
those
put them off.
diamonds?
Yeah. Now who's going to send me my diamonds?
Oh well, as long as you gave him all your bank account details, I'm sure the transaction will go
Got
through.
those and my mum's maiden name.
Good shit.
Anyway, we've been deep diving, and does that work?
Yep.
Cool.
We're gonna be. We're always the deep divers, and you've been the deepest divers. That's how Chris would
no.
end this show. R.I.P. Chris.
Sure. Bye, everyone.
Bye.